It's the anti-show. Welcome to the anti-show. The anti-show. What is the anti-show about? Oh man, I already forgot to get my thing up on here, man. Oh man. Oh man, I'm feeling extra wacky tonight. I've been cleaning all day. I've been cleaning the secret location that I used to film my brand new feature-length film. I had to clean it thoroughly. It took 3 days of cleaning this place for it to be clean. And now it is finally clean. As you can see, I have some new accoutrement behind me. These are my new trees. And whenever I need to feel like I'm someplace tropical, all I got to do is turn around behind me. I can see that there are trees and I can be happy because trees equal happiness. Tropical trees. I really think they add a nice ambience where there wasn't before, perhaps. So what is the anti-show? Well, some weeks back, I mentioned, hey, what if we did the anti-show where, you know what it was? We were doing a show and it just, it devolved into one of those. The chat was really healthy. The live chat, there was a lot of people in the live chat. Everybody was feeling talkative. People were asking questions, this, that, the other, this and the third and the left one and the right one. And I was like, man, I wonder if we could just make the whole show about this, right? Telescope, we'll get to that topic in a moment as I'm easing us in here, okay? That's our first thing that we will discuss. Telescope has already put something for us to discuss in the chat, so we're going to do that. That'll be the very first thing that we tackle here. But let's get the wheels spinning. So the purpose of this is to just have a conversation. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's already started. So I guess that's a good sign. We'll just go. We'll go for a little while. We'll see how long it can go. I got nothing planned. I got absolutely nothing planned other than, if you have something you want to talk about, let's talk about it. Within reason, of course. Has to be within reason. If it's not within reason, then we're not going to talk about it. That's important. That's important to remember. And hold on, I'm looking for the link here. And as I said about the anti-show, I believe it's still going on. I'd like to bring some awareness to Mr. Mike Roach. Mr. Mike Roach is suffering from Alzheimer's. He's the bass player from TSOL. Here it is. It's still going on. You can, if you have a couple extra bucks, please donate or at least share this link. Help Mike Roach raise funds. It's not easy being in a punk rock band, for dedicating your whole life to a punk rock band and needing serious medical care when you're older. Punk rock, unfortunately, does not have a good health care program. So please take a moment and contribute to Mike Roach's GoFundMe. I will put a link down in the description, which I forgot to do because I'm an idiot. And then we will move on. I see Mr. Bob Rose has added to the topic bank. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bob. Bob, we got to talk, buddy. There's things for us to talk about here. Here, we'll copy the link, and I'm putting it here in the chat, and then I'll put it in the description as well. Okay, and then we'll move on. We'll move on to our first topic. So there you go. That's the link is right there. I should really put it in the description as well. We'll come back to that. We're going to come back to that. All right. So let's start off. Let's start off with the first topic here as I fix this. All right. Give me one more second. To fix this, because I really think it should be in the thing while we're live. I mean, it's just kind of stupid not to do that. So I'm an idiot. I forgot to put that there. Hold on. Let me put that here. 1 second. From Mike Roach from TSOL. Here is the link. The GoFundMe link is the very first link. Please click and donate. Please throw some bucks if you have them, or share the thing. If you can, it's a good thing. It's a good deed. Okay. That's it. All right. Now let's get to our topics. Bob has put a second topic in here. Bob, hold your horses for a minute. Bob, hold your horses. Bob knows what I mean when I say to hold his horses. That's fucking funny. That's a funny thing for me to say, to hold horses. All right, we're starting with the topics. Topic number 1, Telescope asks, vinyl versus streaming versus CDs. This is going to be a little controversial. So, speaking of vinyl, I actually have a vinyl to unbox on this show, which we're going to do momentarily. This is a vinyl. Whose vinyl is it? It's a mystery vinyl. Where did this vinyl come from? We're going to find out momentarily. In an ideal setting, I always like to spin records. I love the ritual of spinning a record. I think it's wonderful. Sort of to focus on the theater of the ear, right? It's the theater of music. So it's just kind of like, hey, I'm going to sit here and listen to this record. And the thing about a record is you got to listen to the whole side. You're not going to move the needle around, and you probably don't have a system that has, like, from the 70s where you can automatically change, unless you have a really fancy player, which I do not. I have a Krausley, of which everybody is telling me to get rid of. By the way, I should get rid of the Krausley, which I may or may not. But I'm always down to spin records first, but it's not always convenient. I can't take a record player with me. I know some people do that, and they're friggin' hipster idiots to do such things. So streaming is the most convenient. I could stream right from my phone. Everything has its time and place. I don't listen to CDs anymore. I don't listen to CDs because streaming replaced CDs, and CDs themselves replaced tapes, and tapes replaced records. You know what I mean? But like I said, listening to a record is like going to the movies, man. It's like the format allows you to take in the media and the art in a certain kind of way that it's meant to. It changes the relationships. Spinning a record is like, it's a ritual. It's like, it's an activity. You're not, whereas with streaming, it's like something streaming is a passive thing. I could just put Spotify in my ear, and I'm doing something else. But when I'm listening to a record, I'm generally listening to the record, or maybe I'm doing some I don't know. Maybe I'm doing other things, but I'm tethered to the record player. That's the difference. I'm tethered to the record player, and I don't mind it. I don't mind doing it that way. I hope that covers the topic. What do you all think? Put what you think in the comments. That's the next part of the anti-show. Put what you think in the comments. Do you prefer records, streaming, or CDs? On to the next one. Mr. Bob Rose here. I miss Bob, by the way. I miss Bob being on our show. We gotta convince him to come back somehow. He's retired from podcasting on other people's pods, but we're gonna manipulate him in some way. He says American Movie is the greatest doc of all time. Exit Through the Gift Shop is the second greatest. I can't say that American Movie is the greatest doc of all time, but I really, really, really fucking love it. Other greatest docs of all time: My Best Fiend by Werner Herzog, Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog, Kung Fu Elliot is a fantastic documentary, Jesus Camp is a fantastic documentary. There are lots of really great documentaries out there. I love The Snowball Effect is a fantastic documentary that's on the making of Clerks, which was on the Clerks SX disc and whatnot. More Brains, the doc about Return of the Living Dead. It's not the best doc in the world, but it's a great doc. I guess maybe fundamentally, if you're going to make me, gun to my head, you're going to make me pick a single documentary, it might be American Movie. I don't know that it would be The Snowball Effect, even though I have such a personal connection with The Snowball Effect. It might indeed be American Movie, or it might very well be Kung Fu Elliot. I think Kung Fu Elliot, another American Movie adjacent, man. I mean, those two movies kind of really go hand in hand together. Nobody really knows Kung Fu Elliot. I know Bob knows Kung Fu Elliot. If you have an opportunity to see Kung Fu Elliot, I think it's streaming on Prime. Please watch it. It is a fascinating, riveting documentary about a guy, wannabe. Well, he's not I don't know. Yeah, he is kind of a wannabe martial artist, who is also a filmmaker. And just, you watch the whole thing unravel. There's lots of really great documentaries out there. I don't know, man. It's hard to say American movie is the greatest documentary. I see what Bob is saying. Bob's double dipping here. He's got, guys, you can double dip as much as you want. Put as much as you want in the thing. We're going until I can't talk anymore. He says, topic: surf ninjas is what a studio boardroom accidentally makes a classic. I mean, I would say the same thing. We could say the same thing about Gremlins 2. And Key and Peele did that fantastic sketch about what went on in the boardroom at when they were deciding on how to do Gremlins 2, the new batch. And I believe Joe Dante, I could be wrong, but I believe Joe Dante himself said, yeah, that's pretty much what happened, which is just tremendous when you think about it. It's been a very long time since I've seen Surf Ninjas. I did just recently watch all 4 Three Ninjas movies. I don't think I had ever seen High Noon at Mega Mountain, or I don't think I'd ever seen any of the sequels, to be honest with you. Maybe the one where they go to Japan I had seen. But obviously, the original Three Ninjas is just a friggin' cold stone classic. It's been a minute since I've seen Surf Ninjas. I'd have to revisit it. I really would. We have our sponsor in the chat, and we're going to be doing a sponsor break in a little bit. Riot Stickers CEO Sharpie Riot himself is here. He says, UFOs. What do you think about Bob Lazar? What do you think about David Grush? I don't know who those people are. Is one of those the people from Fire in the Sky? I'm gonna Google these people real quick. There might be other people like me who don't know who these people are. He's an American conspiracy theorist. He claimed to have been a part of a classified U.S. government project concerning. Interesting. I really scratch my head when it comes to conspiracy theories. I generally don't believe in them. But the truth is that, in more recent years, as the world gets crazier and crazier, and it's gotten really freaking crazy. Oh, I heard about this guy, David Grush. As things get crazier and crazier, it kind of gets harder and harder not to believe in certain things that were once considered to be conspiracy theory. Like sometimes the truth is so strange. It's so utterly strange. It's stranger than the conspiracy theories themselves, right? Do I believe that we faked the moon landing? Absolutely not. Do I believe that 9/11 was an inside job? I don't. I don't believe it was an inside job. Do I believe that there was a conspiracy to kill JFK? Yes, I do. I do believe that is true. Do I think, I guess it's really sort of pick and choose. Turned out MK Ultra, which was a conspiracy theory, turns out to be real in some way, shape, or form. As to UFOs and, whistleblower claims, like, here's the weird thing. So here's the weird thing about this. Well, this is kind of crazy because it's like you got to do micro explanation for each one of these topics. Okay, ready? I do believe extraterrestrial life exists. I think that it is a statistical impossibility for it not to exist. The idea that we think that we could honestly be the only intelligent life forms out there is just, or life forms period, is just so strange to me, when there are trillions and trillions of stars and planets and quadrillions of planets out there. You're telling me that we're the one freak example of life developing on Earth. Now, that's one level of it, because then there's this whole thing called the Great Filter. I'm sure Sharpie already knows what the Great Filter is, and that's this idea that the reason why we haven't seen other extraterrestrials, or at least we haven't seen them, like the public, apparently these conspiracy theorists have seen them, or whatever. These government people have seen them. The flying Tic Tac, of course. I think that's what the David Grush UFO whistleblowers in reference to, is because the idea that civilization destroys itself before intelligent life can reach a stage where they can travel to another galaxy, and that we just simply haven't met any other life forms because A, they're too far away, or B, they just destroy themselves. Civilizations destroy themselves before they can create the technology they need to travel to meet us. The other side of that is maybe they have. There's this whole thing about, are they even aliens? Are they time travelers? Are they just human beings that are so far evolved and they've traveled back in time, the gray men or whatever? Who knows? I mean, all of this stuff captures the imagination, but somewhere now, the thing about a guy like David, this guy who worked for the United States Air Force and is a whistleblower. The thing that's interesting about him is that these are guys that work for the government. And that's not to say like that if you work for the government, that means you're a trustworthy person. I mean, not quite the opposite in certain cases. But it's just the idea of like either we have really crazy people working in the government or they're telling the truth. And it's hard for me to imagine that in 1948, extraterrestrials crash landed in Roswell. And then the flip side of, oh, well, how do you think we got our technology? I mean, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to digest. So what do I think about these guys? Like I said, it's one or the other. Either we are hiring really crazy people to work in our government, which is very possible, or they're just telling the truth. And the U.S. government is aware of UFOs, and UFOs don't necessarily. The other thing too, a UFO does not necessarily mean an extraterrestrial, right? Like UFOs simply mean unidentified flying objects, which means we don't know what they are. They're not known to the public, right? In the public sphere. I don't know if that I don't know if that covers the topic well. Please let me know if you're satisfied. Sharpie Riot. Everybody, check out the deal to Riot stickers down in the description. We'll do a commercial break in a second. Bob is like on fire tonight. He says, is honey good on pizza? Bob, the answer is unequivocally yes. Honey is absolutely good on pizza. I friggin' love Mike's hot honey on pizza. I first had honey on pizza. I had a bee sting pie with sopressata. I hope I pronounced that right for you Italians out there. Bob, I'm looking at you. And man, my life was changed. It was like, whoa, you can put honey and cheese on pizza and it works? Fuck yes. I keep a bottle of hot honey. They sell it at Trader Joe's. They have the Trader Joe's brand too. The Mike's hot honey stuff is the real premium stuff, but that's like $10 a bottle, which is kind of bougie for a condiment, if you ask me. I love friggin' honey on pizza, especially hot honey, man. That to me, the hot honey is like the room that ties is like the rug that ties the room together, man. It's sublime. It's sublime. It's just that extra note in the same way that have you ever put rock salt on top of your mozzarella cheese after you make pizza? There's something in the salt that really just like enlivens it, like adds notes. It's the same reason why people use copper spoons to eat when the metal hits your tongue. It tantalizes your taste buds in a way and adds things. Bob again, top 3 best horse movies. Okay. Shit. What are the 3 best horse movies? Well, I did see Spielberg's War Horse. That was I don't know how my family dragged me to this movie. It was around Christmas, one of those, like let's throw this, Hail Mary for the Oscars. It's Spielberg. It's a war movie. It's got an animal war horse. Right? Actually, I'm going to say, talk about documentaries, Bob. Has anybody ever seen the movie Zoo? I think it's called Zoo. Zoo is the story of Mr. Hands. And for those and fictionalized in the movie known as The Death of Dick Long. And if you know what The Death of Dick Long is about, it's also the true story of Mr. Hands. Spoilers, if you haven't seen these, turn this off and go watch them immediately. Although I will tell you, it does deal with some heavy topics. Interspecies erotica, interspecies lovemaking. That's right. Mr. Hands was a dude who loved horses, but he didn't love horses in the way that you think one loves horses. Mr. Hands wanted to be loved by horses. Loved, if you know what I mean. Mr. Hands, along with a couple of friends, would go to these barns somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest. They'd go to these barns and they would allow themselves to be loved by horses. And if you know anything about the anatomy of a horse is massively hung. I mean, hung like a horse, as they say. And the problem with that is that they are so large that when entering the derriere of Mr. Hands got his colon. What's the word? Perforate? I can't say that word. went punctured, perforated. I think that's perforated. His colon or his spleen or something. His internal organs were ruptured by this lovemaking session with the horse. And Mr. Hands had to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go to the hospital. He delayed his trip to the hospital. And the reason why is because Mr. Hands, this is a true friggin' story that's in this documentary. So this counts as dovetailing to what was Bob saying about documentaries. This is a true story about a guy who worked for Boeing. He was a Boeing engineer, and he was so embarrassed that he basically that he was internally bleeding to death from being loved by a horse. Loved by a horse. You know what I'm saying? That he delayed going to the hospital, and he eventually died of internal bleeding. And it's a very sad story. And the reasoning behind it was he had got, him and these other, his community of people who loved horses, animals, but particularly horses. He had gotten into a car accident that made it incredibly difficult for him to feel pleasure, like, that kind of pleasure. And he started to get increasingly more extreme in the lengths he needed to go in order to feel pleasure. And that's what led him to being loved by horses. And he was loved to death. And so Mr. Hands is no longer with us. And that's also the story of Death of Dick Long. I think the dramatized version is better. The documentary is incredibly sad and tragic. The fictionalization, they changed the names and all sorts of stuff. And it's just the premise is still there. And it's a very interesting movie because the reveal is so, you don't know where the movie is going. You just don't know where the movie is going until it goes there. And you're like, that's what they're doing at band practice. So The Death of Dick Long, Zoo, I believe it's called Zoo, and everybody should go watch it. So that's my second favorite horse film. My third favorite horse movie, Jesus Christ. I'm going to have to come back to that because I can't think so fast off the top of my head. What is a movie that has horses in it? JH says, would love to own vinyl, but I love buying cheap CDs from pawn shops. I used to love CDs, man, but like CDs were a means to an end. They were practical when they were practical. They're not practical anymore. I don't have a CD player on hand. Do I still have all of my CDs? I do. In fact, I used to do something really strange. I grew up at such a crucial time. I witnessed the transition of such technology, man. So what I used to do is I had a 94 Toyota Camry, which I affectionately, like Sam Raimi called his 88 Oldsmobile, the classic. Mine was also the classic. 94 silver gray Toyota Camry that had a tape deck player. And that, mind you, it's 2004. I'm 18 years old. And what I do, I have a tape cassette converter that plugs into my CD player. And that's good and dandy, but I start to get annoyed with that after a while. I love driving around, chain smoking cigarettes when I was still a heavy smoker. Driving around in the rain, listening to the Pixies. What I did was I started making CD mixes and then taping them, putting them on tape, and then playing them in my car. That's what I would do. And sometimes that meant like ripping things from like even YouTube. This was 2004, before YouTube. This was probably around 2006-ish, 2007, right? That's when I started ripping things from YouTube as well. Things that you couldn't get on CD or things that you couldn't download, that would just start popping up. I like a great example was some of the songs from Rock and Roll soundtrack, which you could not get the Rock and Roll soundtrack anywhere. So yeah, tapes, man. I was all about tapes too. So tapes and CDs, and it was really practical. I love the idea of just like with the records I was talking about, you drop the record and you're spinning it and playing it, and it's great. It was the same thing. It was the same thing with tape cassettes, man. You just pop the tape cassette in, and then, when the record ended, it flipped over. I had Surfer Rosa and Doolittle on one side, and I had Trump Lamond and Boss. No, sorry. I had Surfer Rosa on one side, I had Doolittle on the other side, and then I had another tape that had Trump Lamond and Bossa Nova, 4 Pixies albums, and those things never left my car, man. And I would just flip them over and over and over again, Ride Sticker says, I grew up with tapes and then CDs. I prefer them, but vinyl is the best because of the artwork, real estate. That's true. That's true, Sharpie. That's very true. Vinyl records have gotten very expensive. They really have. In fact, this record, this 7-inch, it was $14 for a 7-inch. A 7-inch shouldn't cost $14, realistically, but it does in this day and age. And the thing about them is that they appreciate, and that's not, I appreciate that they appreciate, so that's okay. JH says, I still have a CD player in my car. Hey, Count Zacula is here. Count Zacula, throw down some topics if you feel. We got a bunch of people are contributing, and it's great. Parmy Crypta says the Misfits will going to release a new studio album with Glenn someday. What do you think? I don't know, man. I don't know if the Misfits will ever release a new studio album with Glenn Danzig. I don't think, it's the same thing with this is a formula in general. This is not just limited to Glenn. This is also, I would say this about the Pixies too. I'd say this about a lot of friggin' bands, man. When you are in a band and you write a certain kind of way, and then the band breaks up and you go on and you evolve musically in a different direction, and then you reunite with your band, it is very hard to go back to the mindset that you once had and try and write in that style, especially when, especially if you're the sole songwriter, it almost feels sort of cheap. And so while it annoys me that a lot of Pixies material sounds like solo Frank Black or solo Black Francis, the reality is Black Francis wrote all the songs, and then he became Frank Black and wrote all those songs, and then he became Black Francis again. It would almost be disingenuous for him to try and go back and write in a style that just doesn't represent him, creatively anymore. You know what I mean? I need a new seltzer. I have some raspberry seltzer. I'm kind of slumming it today, guys. This is Bowl and Basket. This is like the ShopRite brand of seltzer. It's not a fan at all. But, hey, beggars can't be choosers. And seltzer is seltzer ultimately, in the same way that, I'm not going to say that on it. I'm not going to say that. Oh, I almost said it. That would have been bad. That would not a good thing to say on the air. So, ultimately, like, do I even want a new Misfits record from Glenn Danzig and the Misfits? I don't know, man. Probably not. Like, will I listen to it? Of course, enthusiastically too. I would scrutinize it even. I would sit there and go, is this, like, does this work? Like, does this work? But do I need it? No. I think the canon is the canon. The same thing with the Pixies too, man. Sometimes, like, it's okay to just leave a beautiful corpse and just call it a day. Right? Bob Rose says, topic, would dying during the apocalypse be more or less scary than dying knowing the world would continue on without you? Ooh, Bob, what a friggin' topic, man. This is insane. I mean, this is a great question. This is a fantastic question. I think that it ultimately does not matter. I think death in and of itself is terrifying. Bob knows better than anybody. I just, I haven't really talked about it, but I just finished the first shooting block of my brand new feature-length film called My Shadow. It's my third narrative feature-length film. We shot 65 pages in the last 7 days. It's been a whirlwind. And this script that I wrote, you could listen to the audio play if you like. We did an audio play. Bob actually invented the voice of Shadow, the monster in the movie. This screenplay is all about trying to sort of come to terms with what death is and the fear of death and accepting death. And I think ultimately it's a neutral. It's a neither. The answer, Bob, is that it's neither more or less scary, because ultimately walking through the door is the scary part. It's not knowing that things will go on without you, or the apocalypse doesn't matter. It's like what Peter Pan or Captain Hook says, that, like, death is the last great adventure. It's an unknown adventure, and it's scary. And part of what makes it so scary is the unknown aspect of it. I think a better question, Bob, I'm gonna turn it back on you. Is dying any less scary or any more scary if you know what's going to happen afterwards? Is it easier to die if you don't know what is going to happen afterwards? There you go. Flip that back on you, Bob. Let's see what you have to say about that. JH says, I never had Spotify. I don't support it. They don't pay the artists well. I have talked about this ad nauseum, but I will say this. I wholeheartedly agree that Spotify does not pay artists well, and they should be paying the artists incredibly well. And from an artist standpoint, Spotify is evil and I hate it. But from a consumer standpoint, there has never been a better streaming service. It's the greatest streaming service there ever is. Like, I love Spotify. Now the flip side, the positive of Spotify, and obviously this doesn't qualify for every Spotify listener, but it qualifies for me. So I'm going to speak from my experience. I wholeheartedly love Spotify so much and have discovered so many bands because of Spotify. And then I go to see that band's shows when they come to town, and I buy their records, man. I buy their friggin' records. They put out a record, I buy it. I buy the t-shirt. I buy it at the show because I know that money goes directly to the band. It goes in their pocket. You know, I know that's like an ideal that doesn't really, work for every single situation, but, ultimately, Spotify it's good and it's evil all at the same time. It's good for the consumer. It's evil for the artist. And I hate it. But at the same time, they have the market share. It's the same thing with Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime, all these and all the streamers, they're all evil pieces of crap. If Netflix came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to take your entire catalog, but we're not going to pay you a damn cent, and we're going to make money off of your work, would I do it? The answer is ultimately yes. I would hate to say yes, I would do it. Not for the mere validation of having my work out there in that kind of forum, as well as the potential for exposure and elevating me. And it's easy for me to say that because I make movies for thousands of dollars. I don't spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars making movies where I need, desperately to recoup money for investors. So it's kind of a different story, and that doesn't justify or mean that that people should, accept, musicians should accept what Spotify is and what it does and does not do for them. But ultimately reality is, the ones out there who are getting hundreds of millions of streams, they are getting a chunk of change, and they are, they're on the pulse of the market, and that's where they have to be. And it just sucks. It just sucks. Ultimately, what's the best is Bandcamp, probably, right? That's what I would say. It's Bandcamp. Jimmy says he still plays records and CDs. Kevin 45 says, I like playing CDs in my car. Before we move on, let me just quickly once again talk about this GoFundMe. Please take a moment, support Mike Roach's battle with Parkinson's. Mike Roach does not have good health care. Being in a punk rock band does not give you stability in health care. Parkinson's is very expensive to deal with medically, obviously. Take a moment and kick in a few bucks if you can. Link is down in the description or here in this chat. Let's also take a minute to talk about Riot Stickers. The sponsor of tonight's show is Riot Stickers. Do you need stickers? You can get 200 stickers for $69, die cut stickers, no less. That means you can get a sticker in the shape of a thing of Mike's Hot Honey, or a UFO, or a record, or a CD, or what have you, or even Glenn Danzig's skull via computer guided scalpel, which is how they cut those stickers to size. So link is down in the description. Check out this deal, riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's FRUMESS. Let's play the Riot Stickers music video, and we will be right back with more Anti-Show. This is the Anti-Show. This is the Anti-Show. Anti-Show.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality.
right. And we are back. You all know what is king and what is best, and it is riotstickers.com. Let's see what's in this box. What's in the box? Yeah, so I got a 7-inch vinyl. Who is it from? You know what happens? These, and by the way, there's like 8 friggin' bands that I follow and love, all released friggin' records at the same time. X, Zombie and the Skeletons. I was like, damn, what am I gonna do, man? I can't be buying all this stuff. I just spent thousands of dollars making this movie. Not thousands. I spent about $1,500, but that's just for the first shooting block. Let's see what we got here. Doo, 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 doo. Who could it be? Who could it be? Oh, yes, that's right. And that's the beautiful thing, too. All right, shitty packaging job. Look at this. It's bent. The plastic is bent. Not happy about this at all. Boo, boo. That's the beautiful thing, too, is what? It's sealed? Holy crap. The whole thing it's sealed. Oh, okay. I spoke too soon. They sealed the record. This is the Pixies. This is the Pixies' new 7-inch. Let's take a look. Oh, nice. Okay, that's actually pretty legit. I take back what I said about the packing job. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. So this is the new Pixies single. On one side is You're So Impatient. It's a 45. And on the other side is a cover of Que Sera Sera. At one time or another, I considered getting that as a tattoo, Que Sera Sera. Nice, very thick vinyl. I love 7 inches for their, I like 7-inch records, but they're kind of a pain in the ass because you gotta, constantly change them when you're listening to stuff. But again, it's about the relationship of, hey, the intention, I'm going to listen to this record, and I'm glad to have this in my collection. I really regretted sleeping on the Pixies' last vinyl release, 2 vinyl releases ago. I did not buy Beneath the Eerie on vinyl. I truly regret it. Silver vinyl came with some bonus demos, and they never repressed it. Such a bummer. So I did not hesitate. I'll probably pick up X's new record. I got to be honest with you. I don't think I'm going to get Danzig's new 7-inch Black Hell. I don't know. I am really, really not feeling that cover art, man. It really bothers me greatly. The Ravenettes put out a new covers record, but I listened to it on Spotify, and I did not care for the covers at all. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to pick up that one, if I'm being honest. Now you're going to say, hey, what did you just say about, Spotify and blah, blah, blah. And it sounds kind of hypocritical, but hey, I have supported many artists through Spotify. I also reserve the right to simply consume the music on Spotify and not buy the record if I don't want to buy the record. So, I'm allowed to do that too, if I want to. I don't feel bad. I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm not going to buy a record just because if I don't like the record. There are some bands I'll buy a record sight unseen, and that case in point, the Pixies, I bought this sight unheard. I don't know what it sounds like at all. I just know I love the Pixies, and even though I find their new material to be frustrating at times, I'm still going to listen to it, and I'm still going to support the band. So, it's a case-by-case basis. Bob says a burger, but the bun is 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The answer is no, Bob. Nope. And I like weird, strange food combinations. However, when I was at Lindy's on 4th Street down in Tucson, Arizona, I did have a hamburger that had 2 grilled cheese sandwiches for the buns, and it was absolutely delicious. Delicious. And not only that, it had macaroni and cheese in the sandwich. It was amazing. In the burger. So it was a hamburger with 2 grilled cheese sandwiches with cheese and macaroni and cheese on the inside. It was amazing. It was absolutely delectable. So Lalo says, best place to get Misfits bootleg recordings, Danzig era. I wouldn't know. I don't buy Misfits bootleg recordings. How would I know that? I would never, ever do that. I would never buy a bootleg, ever. Not going to happen. Bob knows that Kung Fu Elliot is great. Exactly. Exactamundo. Riot Stickers, Sharpie Riot says, my favorite doc is 2005's New York Doll. For those of you who don't know, New York Doll is about Arthur Killer Kane, the bass player of the New York Dolls, who converted to Mormonism and was reunited. A documentary crew followed him around in his life as he was reuniting with the New York Dolls in 2004. I saw them on that reunion, in 2004, not the one that Arthur Kane had played at, because Arthur died shortly after he reunited with the Dolls. I think they played 1 or 2 shows. Morrissey, who was the president of the New York Dolls fan club, convinced them to reunite. They had Steve Conti, who I had on a lost episode of Pizza Punk. I have to get that reconstituted. Steve Conti, Sammy Yaffa, and I forget the drum player. So Sammy Yaffa replaced Arthur Killer Kane, actually. But yeah, New York Doll, great portrait of that bassist we lost far too soon. Rest in peace to Arthur Killer Kane. Rest in peace to all of the New York Dolls. There's only one New York Doll who's still alive at this point, and that's David Johansen, and he is living his best life. God bless David Johansen. May he live to be 150. Telescope says, topic. I guess the topic, is it wrong to bootleg albums when the band refuses to re-release them? Oh wow, I mean, these questions are really friggin' great, and they're so deep, and they require incredibly long answers. Here's my answer to that. Fundamentally, it is wrong for anything to be bootlegged without the consent of an artist. Fundamentally, hands down, wrong. However, I feel that there's a gray area here. I've sort of come around, because here's the thing. When you create art, yes, it belongs to you, especially if you're making money off of that art. Like intrinsically, if you're making money off of that art. But what happens is, when you make art and you release it out into the world, and people love it and they want to hear it, there's a responsibility on your end as the owner of that art to make sure that it stays in circulation, right? If there is demand on the market for that material, you have to make sure that it's pressed, that there are copies available. And obviously there's some people that make things in limited edition. They want to make it special. I'm all about that. I get that too. I do. But much in the sense of, like, when you look at, think about laws of nature, there are laws of artistic economics too. And one of them is, if there's a demand for artistic output and the artist whose responsibility it is to ensure it's in circulation, unless they decide it's not in circulation, because the artist might go, hey, I don't want this to be in circulation. I'm not going to put it in circulation anymore, which happens to a great many, and can be incredibly frustrating at that. What happens is, when there's a need, somebody is going to fill it, So you could sit there and complain and say, hey, I don't like bootlegging, or I'm not going to repress this because people bootleg my stuff. But the flip side is because you're not repressing your stuff, and people don't have the option to financially support you in your artistic endeavors, they're going to still buy a copy if it's available, because they want to hear the stuff, right? So there's this idea of OOP, out of print. If something is out of print, that means that the money is not going to the artist or going through the proper avenues that it needs to go to. And therefore, it's not going there anyway. So it's like, that's that weird gray area where I'm kind of like, I don't know if this is so wrong. Like, I don't know if this is so bad. If it's not taking money out of here's the bottom line. If it's not taking money out of your pocket because you did not uphold your responsibility to keep it repressed because of your decision to do so or not, and someone chooses to repress it, they don't have the right to be making money on your stuff, and they shouldn't be making money on your stuff. But if they seek it out in an illegal kind of way just so that they can watch it for free, I don't have any problem with that. So I think if something is out of print and it cannot be legally purchased in any way, shape, or form in a way where the money is going to the artists themselves, then I don't see any problem with seeking it out and listening to it or watching it. I don't see any problem with that. For me, it becomes a problem when the artist does have it available legally through them and is going, especially when they're going to great effort to make sure it's legally available through them. And then people are circumventing that because they either want it for free or they want it for cheaper via bootleg. And what's the problem with bootlegs? Well, there's a lot of problems, but one of the main problems is quality, right? A bootleg does not always represent the artist the way the artist wants to represent themselves. And so, you have these weird, and then you have these weird sort of situations like fan edits are like a weird gray area, because they're not done for profit typically. And they're done with great artistic curiosity. They're interesting. They're interesting. And I don't think they're necessarily bad. It's a weird situation. It's a gray area. So is it wrong to bootleg albums when the band refuses to re-release them? I want to say, if you're bootlegging them for profit, yes. If you're simply acquiring them in some way, shape, or form just to hear them or just to have them for yourself, no, I don't think. Because again, the art was put out there. The art is meant to be art enjoyed by people. And if that artist is not making money from it or chooses not to make money from it because they don't want to repress it, and you go about an illegal way of acquiring it, then, I don't know. Like, here's the thing. It's wrong for a bootlegger to be making money off of something that is out of print because they're bootlegging it. But it's not wrong for the consumer who just simply wants to hear it and own it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the weird thing. It's wrong for the person who's bootlegging it to be bootlegging it for money. It's not wrong for the person who's buying it and just wants to have it and hear it. And that's predicated on the fact that the artist has not taken their responsibility to repress it. There, I'm just being redundant now, but that's what I was trying to say, basically, is that. Yeah, oh my God, I totally forgot about Winnebago Man, another great documentary, and of course, Grizzly Man. We talked about Grizzly Man already. Best mockumentary, JH asked, what's the best mockumentary? There's some great ones. There's a little known one called American Zombie. And it's a strange documentary. It's, it was right at the dawn of it was at the zenith of the dawn of the zombie resurgence in the 2000s, right? The zombie resurgence really began in 2002 to 2004. And by 2007, which is when this came out, is when it was really beginning to saturate. And I think it really exploded into the mainstream pop culture in 2010 with The Walking Dead. So American Zombie is kind of riding that wave. And it's basically a mockumentary where zombies exist in the world, and it's a metaphor for class struggles and this, then the other. And zombies are a marginalized people. They're a marginalized minority who, they're struggling with, trying to remember how they died. And, and the sort of the implied thing is that they do eat people and that they keep it super DL. And there's one part of it, there's a scene that is so utterly bone chilling. Spoilers, if you haven't seen American Zombie, because I'm going to talk about it. There's a scene where they go to this zombie festival, right? The documentary film crew that's making this documentary, but it's a mockumentary. And they basically discover that there are these humans that are in promise of immortality, are consensually allowing themselves to be eaten by zombies, and they get eaten, and it's bone chilling. It's the way it's shot and everything. It's bone chilling because you see the side to these people, these undead people for the first time, and things get really scary after that. So that's a great mockumentary. I mean, Blair Witch, right? Isn't Blair Witch is probably the king of great mockumentary. I'm trying to think. There's a couple of great mockumentaries. What else is there? I'm sorry, they're not coming to mind, but I do like a good mockumentary. They are fun. I get any of the Christopher Guest things, movies that have come out, like Best in Show. That stuff is always good too. Alex Schmidt says, if someone travels a lot and are only at home to sleep, having a record collection is almost a waste. Yeah. Uh-oh. Bob Rose disagrees. He says Gremlins 2 is absolutely 100,000% what Dante wanted to do. He was joking about his response to the sketch, which was not reality at all. Funny sketch. Oh, I stand corrected. I did not know that. I thought that is absolutely what happened. And yeah, I don't know. But I really love Gremlins 2 a whole hell of a lot. It's a great friggin' movie. Gremlins 2 is the opposite of a boardroom. It's Joe Dante satirizing sequels made by a boardroom. Either way, it's great. I friggin' love it. I stand corrected. It's great, right? Parmy Crypta says, what do you think if Brendan Lee survive and we have The Crow 2 or 3? I'll tell you that because Brendan had a contract for 3 movies. You know, it's funny. So on this channel, I interviewed the director, Alex Proyas. I interviewed the director of The Crow. It's on this channel. Go check it out. And we talked about Brendan Lee's death and how it related to Rust, the Rust shooting, and I asked him what he thought of the Rust shooting. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it or not. I was like, let me save this question for last, just in case he like flips out on me or something. He was very gracious though. And I was very respectful. I was very respectful in inquiring and asking him that. What do I think? I think more, I don't know, you know, here's the thing about The Crow. The Crow is like, it's a singular work, man. It's a singular story. I love, you know, and I've talked about this with Bob Rose, actually, like the idea of like always having more of a world that I really love and enjoy, like, even if it doesn't need it, like, you know, like I can never get enough of Return of the Living Dead. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. But the movie, The Crow, it's a Greek / Shakespearean sort of tragedy movie. You know what I mean? It's like a singular story that has a beginning, middle, and end. So it kind of, as tragic as the real life, you know, ending of Brendan Lee behind The Crow, it also kind of galvanizes and, you know, mythologizes what that movie is and what it represents. And so in that kind of way, it's almost kind of apropos that it's like this singular thing. And yes, there are other Crow movies and I've watched them. And, you know, I don't mind Crow 2 and Crow 3. And I think it kind of works better. Like, I don't know if I would want to see Brendan Lee come back. Here's the thing about The Crow. You know, if you were to bring back, assuming that Brendan Lee did not tragically die, and you brought him back for 2 sequels, it cheapens the first movie. You know what I mean? In the same way that if you resurrect Tony Stark, it makes Avengers Endgame not as impactful as it is, right? So, you know, even though he's come back as Doctor Doom, which is a whole other story, I did a whole video on that if you want to check that out as well. But if you bring Brendan Lee back again and again, it weakens, it waters down what the first Crow is all about. So it's kind of perfect. It's not perfect that Brendan Lee died, and I wish I would give anything for him to have lived and make more movies. But the idea that there's, you know, one Brendan Lee Crow movie is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I think it's still very special. It makes it special, but it's so sad and tragic that he passed away. And I wish that never happened, man. I wish that he was still here, making movies and stuff. And it's very sad to me. he seemed like a dude, seemed like an awesome dude, full of life and full of potential. So Trevor Gnu said Joe Dante only agreed to do Gremlins 2 if he could do whatever he wanted. So, well, he literally did whatever he wanted. So there you go. What Trevor said, Bob is so gung-ho on this. What Trevor said, Dante is 100% responsible for Gremlins 2. Okay, Bob. Okay, fine. I just had read that somewhere. I had read that he had that was what he had said. I guess I don't know. Either which way, it's a brilliant sketch. It's a great friggin' sketch. You know, that's the funny about Key and Peele. They're so hit or miss. You know what I mean? With some of their sketches, and that was one that just. I also really like the Continental Breakfast one. Ooh, Continental Breakfast, eh? And of course, Wendell. Wendell is amazing. I hit that sexually. Cheesy crust. JH says there's definitely aliens and the government knows about it, I believe. I mean, if anybody's going to know about whether aliens are here or not, it is the government. So Trevor says at Bob Rose, which is why Gremlins 2 is a postmodern masterpiece of existential satire and societally reflective comedy. Well said, Trevor. I wholeheartedly agree about that either which way. Aaron says he's watching me on a 4K TV. Congratulations on your 4K TV, Aaron. And I never thought I would be on TV. Look, Mom, on television. Ha! Bob says an absolute masterpiece. One of my favorite movies ever. Trevor says Gremlins 1 is a little bit cozier of a rewatch for me, but I'm glad to exist in a world where Gremlins 2 happened. I love Gremlins 1 too, man. I mean, and you know, they talk about Gremlins 3, but I think at this point, I don't think we need a Gremlins 3. I think Gremlins 1 and 2, it's the perfect 1-2 double feature punch. And that's it, man. Because Gremlins 3, maybe it'll have Zach Gilligan in it. Gilligan, is that his last name? But you're not going to have any Dick Miller in it. You're not going to have like anybody from, maybe Phoebe Cates would come out of retirement for that one. Isn't it strange that Phoebe Cates married Kevin Kline? That is a strange coupling, but a coupling nonetheless. JH says the Bob Lazar interview is very interesting. Okay, maybe I'll check it out. Aaron says, I have thrown my dirty underwear once. It may have been the UFO. Okay, Riot's Sharpie is saying New England tomato pie versus pizza. He's saying that that's better than pizza. I don't even know what New England tomato pie is. I got to look. Let's look up a picture. This is the second time we're going to Google for Sharpie Riot. What is New England? Oh, my Lord. Dude, this looks like lunchroom pizza or like Emilio's frozen pizza. I don't know about this, man. This is a little gnarly. Look at this pizza, you guys. How to make Utica tomato pie, New Haven. I mean, it looks good. Oh, I've had this at Sally's a Pizza. This is delicious. This is absolutely delicious, right? With a little sprinkle of Parmesan. Yes. New Haven tomato style pie. Right. That's Sally's a Pizza. They also have one in Stamford, Connecticut. That is actually really, really, really good pizza. Really tasty. I will concur. I don't know if it's better than pizza altogether, but it is very good. It's a very good type of pie. Classic Southern tomato pie. That looks like an actual pie, though. No, Sharpie, you're not wrong. It is delicious. I couldn't say that it's better than all of pizza, but you know. Jackass number 2 is the best horse movie. Oh, that reminds me, another horse film, another one of my favorite horse films is Freddy Got Fingered. Freddy Got Fingered is a great horse movie. Why do I say that Freddy Got Fingered is a horse movie? Because it's a movie that has a horse in it, and it's great. That's a great scene with a horse. I'll tell you what. Yeah, the word is, by the way, it's perforated. Thank you. That's what I was missing. Antonio asks, Is the American dream dead? That is a very good question. I would say fundamentally, it is. It is to a great extent. And I would say that capitalism killed the American dream. Capitalism is like a force of nature. You know what I mean? It's like fire. It's like indifferent. You know, fire will either keep you warm or it will burn you. Water will either keep you hydrated or it will drown you. It's not inherently, it itself is not inherently evil, but it is not necessarily, you know, benevolent towards human beings and people's welfare. Capitalism cares about one thing: making money, making the most amount of money in the most efficient way possible. And that's usually directly in conflict with the welfare of human beings, unfortunately. And so, you know, the idea of the American dream being dead is like what's part of the American dream? What is the American dream? The ability to self-actualize in some way, shape, or form, and live in a way where maybe you're not the richest person in the world, but you have everything that you need, and that you're happy, and that you're pursuing things that make you happy. And immigrants still believe, there are a lot of immigrants that still believe in the American dream because they come from countries where they don't have freedom like we have freedom here. And that's the reality. So for as many freedoms as we get that are taken away from us in a variety of different ways, there are places and there are people that would spit at you from other countries, especially in the Middle East. They'd be like, shut the F up. You don't know how good you have it. There are probably countries in Africa. Are you kidding me? I could feed my family for a year with the food from your Trader Joe dumpsters. You know, the food waste, comparatively to where there, you know, are places in Africa where people are starving to death, you know. So on that level, you know, and is what I'm talking about qualify as the American dream? Let's go to the actual definition of what the American dream is, because everything I've said could qualify as the American dream. I also think that the American dream, when I talk about like the Misfits, part of the reason why I love the band, the Misfits, so much is because I think they embodied so much of what the American dream is. Maybe my American dream, the idea of entrepreneurship and self-actualization through artistic expression. What does that mean? It means creating something out of your basement and having it be something that everybody either wants to be or wants to buy, you know. And that's not everybody wants to buy a Misfits record, but like, you know, the idea that they created this thing and they did it in suburbia. I mean, I guess all of punk rock is kind of like that. Here you go. So here is, so by the definition as defined by Google right here, I would say that the American dream is most certainly dead. The ideal that every citizen of the United States should have an equal opportunity to achieve success and prosperity through hard work, determination, and initiative. And that's from the George W. Bush Presidential Center, by the way. That's the top definition. Here, let's go to Investopedia, and what do they say? Investopedia says, what is the American dream? It was coined in a best-selling book in 1931 titled The Epic of America by James Truslow Adams. Adams described it as the dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement. So the reality is that because of you know, class struggles, racial struggles, you know, social politics in general, I would say that the American dream has been hobbled greatly. Is there a way back to the American dream? I don't know. Was there ever really an American dream? I suppose you could say in the 60s or the 50s, the atomic nuclear family, post-war America, But when the economy was great, was that was the American dream? What about the 90s? Was the 90s during the Clinton administration, was that the American dream? Man, it's hard. I don't know. Did we ever really have the American dream to begin with? Was the American dream always an ideal that America was striving for? One thing I can say, I do stand by what I said before, the idea that capitalism, which again, I'm not saying is inherently good or inherently evil. It's a force of nature that will mow over anybody. I mean, look at insurance companies, look at pharmaceutical companies jacking up the price of drugs that people need to live in order to make a profit. You know, that's the problem with the free market, ultimately, you know. But then if, you know, the other thing is it's a spectrum. If you go too far in the other direction and everything's regulated and controlled by the government, that's also really bad. There needs to be some sort of equilibrium in the middle. And, you know, the problem is we have this thing, I call it the widening gyre. It just gets the divide between ideologies, and it's really like this A, B, black and white ideology. It grows wider and wider. Where are all the people that like think in the center? You know what I mean? Where do I fall? I consider myself to be, I thought I was progressive left, although I find that there are a lot of things that progressive left believe in that I don't, that I'm not going to get into here. But I think a lot of you would probably think I'm like a communist freak with some of my ideals and beliefs. Ultimately, I do believe, I want to believe in the American dream. I want the American dream to be real. You know, I do believe that capitalism can be great in certain aspects. Sorry if this is getting a little too political. Hope that answers the question, or hope that covers what this is or is not. Yeesh. Sharpie, this is a blank comment. New topic, please. Yeah, guys, go watch the Horse Fuckers movie. Thank you, Jonah Lennon. Count Zacula asks, does The Last Unicorn count as a horse movie? I'm going to say that it does. The Last Unicorn does count as a horse movie because a unicorn is a magic horse, right? If we think about what is the definition of a unicorn is a horse with a giant horn coming out of its head. It's a horny horse, right? And therefore, being horny can be very magical, and therefore, a unicorn is a magic horse. That's it. Period. End of story. So to answer this question, The Last Unicorn absolutely counts as a horse movie. Hands down, 100%. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Telescope says Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the greatest horse film. Now, I know you're being facetious here because there aren't really horses in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And part of the reason for that is because the budget was so low and the cost for horses was so high for what they were doing. I believe the budget was $500,000. Let's double check that. Thank God we have Google, right? What was the budget of Monty Python and the Holy Grail? There we go. Let's take a look. It was, get the freak out of here. You have got to be kidding me. Huh. How about that? What do you think it is, guys? This will blow your minds. The budget was $229,575 Great British pounds. Now, this movie was made in 1975. So therefore, we need to convert that to today's. It says the budget was 400,000 US dollars. So that, let's do $400,000. $400,000, 1975. Here we go. Calculate. So it was roughly $2.3 million in today's dollars, aka $400,000. That is a low budget movie to do a period piece, okay? Even if it's a comedy. And so in leaning into the, you know, surrealist satire, farcical nature of what Monty Python was all about, a very creative workaround was to simply have, these coconut shells making the horse sounds and have them riding around. So it's like, they're just galloping, pretending like they're riding on horses and having these. So they basically turn their limitation. What I'm trying to say is they turn their limitation due to a budgetary constraint into a funny comedic story element as a result. And so I guess bottom line, Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a really great horse film for that reason. So there you go. But I mean, that's like the beauty. I mean, that's the beauty of creativity in filmmaking. It's like we're going to do something really fun and interesting and unique because we don't have the money to do what we really want to do. Here's the funny thing in relation to this. Money almost allows people to be uncreative. Oh, we're going to throw money at this problem. How do you throw money at a problem like this? You throw money at the problem. You simply have horses. We need horses. We need to spend money on horses. We got horses. That's it. And then Monty Python and the Holy Grail looks like any other low budget period piece, Middle Ages film from 1975, because they have horses. But what sets Monty Python and the Holy Grail out from the rest is that they didn't have horses, man. They didn't have friggin' horses. And it makes it more unique. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And they invented a really cool workaround as a result. And to me, it's a great example. It's one of the greatest examples of low budget filmmaking out there. And it's really kind of like an idea, a mentality that you can plug in and apply to, your story, whatever it is that you're doing. How do I get a topic up? I mean, just write it in the comments. I've just been reading comments. Thank you, Sharpie. I've just been reading comments. Exactly. Count Zacula says, I used to rip live Misfits tracks from YouTube and put them on CDs. There you go. Exactly. It's exactly what it is. Back in the day, I don't know if you were ever on Misfits Central. Back in the day, that forum had a ton of stuff. All of it out of print, all of it available. Doolittle is effing awesome. Yeah, Doolittle is one of my all-time favorite records of all time. The lyrics to Doolittle are like poetry. I mean, they are poetry, but they're like, I memorized them like they're, like these great canons of poetry. I don't know how else to describe it. Just incredible. How do I feel about AI and music? Oh, God, the questions here are friggin' amazing. I'm going to take this one before I get to this one. Jonah Lennon asks, topic, best plant. That's easy. The best plant is the Venus flytrap, mother effer, because a Venus flytrap eats flies, and it looks really cool. Yeah, Venus flytraps, man. I think any plant that gives you fruit, like coconuts or bananas or pineapple, like any of those plants are awesome because they give you delicious, tasty snacks, but also Venus flytraps because they eat like flies and spiders and things. And I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of metal or something. I don't know, pitcher plants and whatnot. All right, now I'm going to answer this question. Alexander Lawrence asks, how do I feel about AI and music? How do I feel about AI in general? I'm going to widen the conversation here, not just about music. Here's what I've decided about AI as of now, as it relates to creativity, as it relates to really anything. If AI is sort of like a calculator, or it can be like a calculator, Chat GPT, right? We should be treating AI like it's a calculator, man. Like people were like freaking out about calculators when calculators came around, and people are still doing math problems, whether they're utilizing calculators or not. AI should be a tool to enhance whatever it is that you're doing. It should not be the be all end all of what you are doing. And yes, there are some legal implications that make it appealing in the sense that you can have AI you can basically enslave AI. You can have AI do work for you, and then you can own it. There's no copyright. AI cannot be copyrighted. You cannot copyright something that's made by AI in any way, shape, or form. So it's like this weird sort of situation. But I think that if you're using AI to enhance what you are doing, I don't see any problem with that. And a great example of AI as it relates to music is I love that, the thing that I do love about AI in the creative space is I love how it's basically turned into this what if engine where people are taking these prompts. They're like 1970s film posters for horror films about this and the style of this. And you get all these crazy looking horror posters to movies that never existed. Or Futurama, if it was made in the 80s in real life. And AI is able to like literally create that. Like to me, that's what AI should be used for. It should be used for allowing us to imagine like crazy what if scenarios, a what if generator. And it's the same thing with music too. You see these, people, they're like, oh, if, this song was sung by Kurt Cobain singing Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. You know what I mean? Like that's when AI gets interesting to me. And it turns into a novelty of like, I just want to hear what that sounds like. That's interesting. So that's where I think there's like a medium. Now the problem is, in terms of like the dangers of AI and, AI becoming conscious and the singularity, that's a whole other ball of wax. But you said in your topic, how do I feel about AI and music? And I just widened that to art. And like I said, if you're using it like a calculator in the same way that you would use a tablet to draw, an illustration instead of, using a piece of paper, right? Like that's how I feel about that, I guess. It's a tool. It's a means to an end. Here's the other thing though, and this is super important. I don't think that AI can replace art from an artist. You know what I mean? Fundamentally, like there's something about the human soul is expressed through art, and there's no soul in AI. And we've seen all these straight up crazy, clumsy kind of examples of it. So at the end of the day, it's always best. And, people in my industry, in the film industry, are like, everybody's freaking out over AI right now. And I mean, rightfully so, because it's taking creative jobs away. And that's terrible. That is just horrible. It's a horrible thing. I want to believe that it's going to balance out. I want to believe that people are not stupid enough to be like AI could replace, artistic output in some way, shape, or form. Because like I said, art comes from the soul, whether it's music or film or art or illustration. And therefore you can't accept any substitutes. That's the bottom line. So that's how I feel about it. Telescope says, I think a new Evil Live is a possibility. New album, nope. He's referring to the Misfits. Could the Misfits release a new record? I think it's incredibly foolish and stupid that the Misfits have not released a new Evil Live yet. I think that they were at the height of their powers somewhere around 2019-ish. And that's when they should have put out Evil Live 3. I made a bootleg concert film for free, not for profit, called Evil Lives, the Misfits AD, sourced from cell phone footage from the very first Riot Fest show. Really just as a challenge to see if I could sync up 144 different YouTube videos that I had ripped into a single 90-minute show. And I did do that. And of course, Uncle Glenn took it down and whatnot. So I guess that's the closest that we have to Evil Live 3. What I made is the closest to an Evil Live 3. Didn't sound very good though. They totally should do a new Evil Live. They should have pressed it on 1,000 different varieties of vinyl. It's crazy to me that they haven't done that yet. And I don't know what the hell they're possibly waiting for. They're losing money. Alexander Lawrence says there could be Misfits AI tracks coming soon. There's an account. It's called Glenn Danzig. It's called Glenn Danzig Fan Fiction. And he basically he basically redoes songs with Glenn Danzig's vocals. He has to separate the vocal track from the rest of the music, and then he puts it through some sort of AI Glenn Danzig algorithm thing, and then marries the two back together with varying results. Sometimes it's spot on. It's really great. And we even talked about one of them. We talked about Glenn singing Speak of the Devil by the New Misfits. But it's hit or miss. It's not the greatest. Oh shit. Count Zacula says, topic. Can you remember where you were the first time you saw one of your favorite films? I mean, I think I can remember a lot of them. I can remember, let's see here. Okay, I remember the first time I saw Night of the Living Dead was at my neighbor's house. I was 10 years old. It was 1995, and we watched it on a VHS, and I remember having my breath taken away. It was the first time that I really connected with a black and white movie outside of watching Three Stooges shorts, and I actually had the attention span to sit and watch and be engaged in this film. And man, I remember it was the summer of 1995, and I remember, thinking in my house when I went home the next day. When I went home, not the next day, it was the same day, and I was thinking about how I could hide in my attic. Like, where would I go to prevent zombies from getting from me? Another first, I can remember seeing Return of the Living Dead for the first time, and I've told this story 100 times. I'm going to say it one more time here. I told it to Linnea Quigley, had her on the show. Check that out. That's a video somewhere on the channel. I taped it off of the Sci-Fi Network, half of the movie, and it was years before I finally sat down and watched the other half. And I wore that tape down. I was like, what is this? This is like kind of like, is this a zombie movie like Night of the Living Dead? Did not understanding what it was. Dead Alive, Video Ranger, 2000, maybe it's 2003. I'm at Video Ranger, one of my local video store, and I'm talking to the clerk, and I'm like, could you recommend a movie for me to watch? And she recommended Dead Alive. She's like, Dead Alive, right up your alley, exactly what you're looking for. Went down to my basement, same place where I watched Return of the Living Dead for the first time, and I threw that on, and I had a fucking blast. Just everything I could not imagine that's not what I'm trying to say. It was hard to imagine what I was experiencing, but it was like, no, that's not what I mean either. The words are not coming out of my mouth properly. It exceeded every expectation. I remember watching Reanimator for the first time, a little black and white TV in my room, on VHS. Yeah, I mean, there's countless examples. I remember going to see Jurassic Park, 8 years old, 1993. I can still remember the T-Rex roaring in the theater, the tension, and then taking my son 30 years later. He was the age that I was when I went to see it. I took him 30 years later to watch Jurassic Park on the big screen. It was so, what an experience that was. There are some films too where I don't remember the first time watching them because, I had, seen them so many times. It's like, how you kind of like don't remember being born. You just have always existed, right? Like you can't remember that far back. I know some people can. Like, it's like you've always existed. You've always been here. It's hard. You can't remember day one. I feel like that's the same when it comes from movies too. Like, I can't remember the first time I watched Jaws. I can't remember the first time I watched The Shawshank Redemption. They're just movies that have always existed and always been in my cerebral cortex. My first memory of going to see a movie in the movie theater was Spaced Invaders, 1989. I have a memory of the memory. I don't remember anymore, but I remember remembering, if that makes any sense. Tits are tits. I mean, yeah. I think so. And that's what I was going to say before, and I stopped myself. But since you're saying tits are tits, I mean, here's the crazy thing. Like, you know, I know that there's like a Kinsey scale. I consider myself to be entirely heterosexual, but at the end of the day, like, you know, fundamentally, a hole is a hole and a mouth is a mouth. Why am I saying this on the internet? This is really, this is bad. But in that same sort of mentality, of tits are tits. So are, if it's dark, if it's dark, then a mouth is a mouth and a hole is a hole. Well, I don't know what else. Why am I talking about? I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. I'm not ahead. I'm far behind. I'm far behind. McClovius. What a name, McClovius. Oh my God. We still have 19 comments to get through. Jesus. I don't know what to do with my CD collection. Fortunately, the Misfits Coffin Box and Sam Haden CDs are worth it. Now I want to collect all Glenn Danzig's musical work in vinyl. Greetings from El Paso, Texas. I've been to El Paso. Cool place. Cool place. I mean, listen, more power to you, man. Go out there and start. It's expensive, but go out there and start doing it. Do it, man. Do it. Go out there. I mean, and this is where, you know, I've never bought a Misfits bootleg. I have all the Misfits bootlegs, man. I can't afford to buy an original Bullet. I don't have the money for that, but I want to own Bullet as a record as it was originally presented. So I have a bootleg of Bullet. If Glenn Danzig released Bullet officially through Glenn Danzig, you know, as the Misfits, I would buy that. I bought the Who Killed Marilyn, even though I own Who Killed Marilyn. I bought it. I have a bootleg of Who Killed Marilyn. I bought the official one. Why? Because I wanted the official one, of course. But if they're not available to me, if the Halloween EP is not available to me, I still want to own that as like an art piece that I happen to listen to on record, because that kind of is like, wow, so that's what it was like in like 1981 to be listening to this at this time, you know, that kind of vibe. Telescope says, I would prefer a new Sam Hain album. I highly doubt there will ever be a new Sam Hain album. You'll get a new Son of Sam album before you get a new Sam Hain album. And I don't think the Son of Sam album is ever going to come. So, you know, I don't think that is possible. I don't know if you saw earlier, Alex, I get a Black Hell 7-inch. I did not buy one. I don't think I'm going to. I'm very much on the fence. Because the reason why, I just really don't like the cover art. I just don't. I don't know. I just like, I should buy it. I should buy it and I should unbox it. And I probably will. I'll probably cave. It just bothers me, man. It's like Glenn doesn't try anymore. He just doesn't friggin' try at all. Like, I wish the dude would like not dial it in, like put some effort. You were the king. This guy was the king. He was the fucking king. Like, what happened, man? It's just such a, it's a bummer, dude. It's a fucking bummer. My shadow. Jay Reatard would be happy. Yeah, dude. Hell yeah, man. That's where I got the name for my new feature film. Comes from that song by Jay. I'm a huge Jay fan, and that record means a lot to me, Blood Visions. And obviously, two of my films have song titles from that record. Blood Vision, Kuyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions of Chaos Magic is a documentary that is imminently to be released. I'm waiting to hear back on a few things before I put it out. It'll be available on the YouTube channel. If you're a Patreon or a YouTube member, you can watch Kuyashi Gonzo, Blood Visions and Chaos Magic right now, and My Shadow is soon to come. Bob says, death is the only adventure I have left. Right. That's the line from Hook, I think. That's the line from Hook. Looking forward. Alex Lawrence says, looking forward to JAI Reatard tracks. Notice how I say Reatard, because that's how it's kind of pronounced. I think they exist already. And I wonder what Jay would have thought of that. He probably would hate it. Anyone into planted aquariums? I'm not, but I mean, it seems cool. You know, I built a fish tank for my son upstairs. My son was like, Dad, please, I want a fish tank. I was like, no, because I'm going to have to clean it and do all this stuff. He's like, oh, please, Dad, oh, please, I'll take care of the fish. Meanwhile, months later, almost a year later, that little bastard I do everything. He feeds the fish. I do everything else. I'm just sitting here going, God damn it. Like, oh. But you know what? The boy wanted it and the boy got it. And I love him. So whatever. Alexander says death is just a loss of consciousness. How do you know? We don't know that. Like that is, I've done some real deep dives talking about death. We talked about, is resurrection possible? That was a whole topic, as well as cryogenics, what cryogenics and cryogenic freezing, both videos on this channel. I suggest you go check them out. They are deep dive rabbit holes. They're rabbit holes, deep dives. Check them out. Death is something that I think about death a lot. I'm sorry to say. I don't want to. It's just something you think about as you get older, because it feels sometimes like you're being pushed off a cliff. If I'm being honest, I don't even like to talk. I have to like knock on wood and say Hamza because of, sorry. Bob Rose says it's scarier not to know the afterlife. If you knew where we go, that only scary if the destination itself is to be feared. So spoilers. If you have not read the Stephen King's Revival, which is basically his version of Frankenstein by way of H.P. Lovecraft, it talks about this subject, talks about death and where you go after death. And it is absolutely the conclusion of this story. It's a slow burn with a conclusion that is so utterly terrifying, especially in the realm of like what happens after you die. I do not want to reveal what Stephen King writes about. All I can say is go read this book. Well, don't read this book, actually. It might scare the ever-living shit out of you. It was one of the few times that the end of a Stephen King book just utterly terrified me. Afterlife, I don't know, man. Here's what I believe right now. All right, going back, shameless plug. So the banner of my personal Facebook page, this is something that I wrote. The conclusion, it's the conclusion of the screenplay that I am now filming. This is a character. This is me talking. This is my meditation on death and the afterlife through the character of Dr. Dollar, which is a character I came up with. And this is what I wrote. This was December 13th, 2022, when I wrote this. We cannot create or destroy energy. It has always existed, and I want to believe that the same holds true for creativity. And perhaps this is ultimately where our consciousness comes from and where it returns to in the end. It is the same place where our songs, sculptures, paintings, poems, films, and writings come from. And every time you choose to create instead of destroy, you are visiting, you are communing, you are conversing, you are honoring someone you knew, someone you cared for, someone you respected, and someone you loved. And that, to me, like, that's where I think of the afterlife. I want to believe that we return to this source of creativity. And I don't know if that's true, but that's just what I choose to believe at this point in time. Clovia says, oh my God, now we're at 20. God damn, the comments don't stop coming. McClovia says, Spotify is good to listen to your favorite music anywhere except Sam Hain. I've uploaded my CDs to my smartphone. As I said, Spotify is great for the consumer. It's terrible for the artist. And that intrinsically bums me out. Gerd Hall says, is the insult of calling someone a sellout, dead, or having terms like industry plant and Nepo baby? Wait, blah. Sorry, your question is hard for me to read. Is the insult of calling someone a sellout, dead, or have terms like industry plant and Nepo baby replaced it? So I think these are two different things entirely, Mr. Hall or Miss Hall. These are two different things entirely. A sellout is not the same as an industry plant or a Nepo baby. A Nepo baby, and I don't like that term either, to be honest with you, because there are plenty of Nepo babies out there. There are plenty of So there are plenty of untalented people who are the children of wealthy people who simply have a career because they are the child of said wealthy person. There are other offspring descended from, prolific, successful, famous artists who are entirely worthy of the moniker that they inherit. Case in point, Brendan Cronenberg, who is every bit as talented and creative and interesting as his father, David Cronenberg. He so thoroughly and utterly carries the Cronenberg mantle. Now, do you think that Brendan Cronenberg fundamentally would be able to, carry the Cronenberg name if not for the fact that he was a Cronenberg? Wait, did that make any sense what I just said? Do you think that would he be worthy if he wasn't talented? Would he still be no, that's not what I'm trying to say either. What the fuck am I trying to say? The point is that whether Brendan Cronenberg lives up to his father's name, and in fact might even surpass his father in what his father does. This is a valid sentence when talking about Cronenbergs. Cronenberg out Cronenberged Cronenberg when you're talking about David and Brendan Cronenberg. Now, the flip side is James McCartney, the son of Paul McCartney, has released some music. It's kind of interesting. Would anybody give a shit if it was not for the fact that he's the son of a Beatle, right? Like, would anybody frigging care? And the answer is, I don't think so. I think it would be considered to be quite mediocre. I think what makes it intrinsically interesting is the fact, I've said intrinsically a lot on this stream. I think what makes it interesting is the fact that it is music made by the son of Paul McCartney, and you're kind of like, what does that sound like? Now, on the flip side, you have a guy like Jacob Noel, the son of Bradley Noel, who's now fronting Sublime. Not only is he a Nepo baby, and I would say not at all. Not at all. He likes to kind of downplay that. He kind of downplays the breath of air that beneath his wings that being the son of Bradley Noel is. Because it's like, come on, dude, that's cred. He's got cred. He's got clout because of that. He likes to downplay that. So that's kind of, I think that's a little, that's a little sus. You know what I mean? To use what the kids say. It's like, dude, acknowledge he does a pretty good job, but he acknowledges that he's the son of Bradley Noel. But bottom line, he is so utterly deserving of that mantle because he has all of the talent of his father. He has his father's voice, and he spent 10 years making music and, kind of going in a direction away from Sublime. And the irony is that as much as he tried to walk away from being associated with Sublime or that style of music or ska or whatever the hell, his music was so utterly authentic to what his father made that even when trying to distance himself from it, he still ended up effortlessly sounding like he could be the front man of a Sublime band. And so for him to not only take the banner and to also say that, like, I live in my father's shadow. I recognize that I am not in Sublime in the sense of or I am recognizing that he is a custodian on behalf of Bud Gaw and Eric Wilson, asking him to take that frontman spot and recognizing the power dynamic of these guys are Sublime and they've asked me to fill these shoes of my own father. I can't, that's not a Nepo baby. And that's also not selling out. Industry plant is somebody, so separate from that, an industry plant is somebody who is basically bred and sort of made to look like they come up. I guess what an industry plant and a Nepo baby have in common is that they both have a step up, right? They have a step up because, that's what I was trying to say about Brendan Cronenberg before. Would Brendan Cronenberg be as high profile and as famous and as successful if he didn't have the Cronenberg name. That's what I was trying to say before. And the answer is I don't know. I don't know. I think having the last name Cronenberg enhances the art that he makes, but the art that he's making, whether he's a Cronenberg or not, is just as Cronenberg, if not more Cronenberg than David Cronenberg himself. So it's like these are examples where both Jacob Noel and Brendan Cronenberg not only do justice by their famous parents, but they elevate and enhance everything that their parents were known for in wonderful ways. You know, an industry plant is somebody who's manufactured entirely, is manufactured to look authentic when they're not authentic. And what I mean by authentic is even if their music is authentic, they essentially were synthesized, right? It's a synthesization. They're synthesized by a corporation to, be marketed and packaged in a certain way. And that's not selling out. So I don't think being a Nepo baby can be selling out because that's a birthright. You're born into a position and you either you have talent or you don't have talent. And then you have a choice of, if you do or don't have talent, embracing the legacy that you are a part of. Because ultimately, when you have a parent that's that famous, they have a legacy, and people, their fans, their crowd, their audience wants to see their descendants follow in the footsteps of that famous person. Whereas a sellout could be, here's what a sellout is. A sellout is when you change fundamentally who you are in order to be more commercial and to make money, where you trade your authentic artist voice for, say, a trend. Some might say that Sugar Ray would be a great example of an artist that's sold out, because Sugar Ray, which used to have, they had a different name too. What were they called? Hold on, let's look at this. Sugar Ray would be a great example of a band that sold out. Sugar Ray. Let's look up Sugar Ray, the rock band, for a second. Because I want to know. I believe they used to be called the Sex Maggots. History. All right, from 86 to 96. So let me share this tab instead. Let's take a look at this real quick. From 86 to 96. Hold on, I'm just going to skim this. The band's debut album, Lemonade and Brownies, was released in 1995 through a failed to produce a major hit single. It did earn them recognition in alternative circles. No, that's weird. Didn't they used to be called something else? They was in a number of reggae bands. Huh. Oh, the band played under the name The Tories. Then the band's name was called The Shrinky Dinks. And then after signing with Atlantic Records, the name was changed to Sugar Ray upon threat of a lawsuit from the Milton Bradley Company, maker of Shrinky Dinks. So I guess you can't fault them for changing the name. But what happened was they got a hit single with Fly. And I guess it was a bit different from what their sound was. And they sold out, man. They sold out. They conformed, and they kept trying to repackage. They kept trying to repackage themselves in the way. Oh, you know what it was? The Goo Goo Dolls used to be called the Sex Maggots. That's what it was. The Goo Goo Dolls. And Hoobastank too. Let's see. The Goo Goo Dolls. So John Resnick and Robbie Takak, they've been going since 1986, these guys. They've been playing together for nearly 40 years. It's kind of amazing. And their past members, there's only 4 members of the band. Past member was the brother. Oh no, it wasn't the brother. Whatever. But they started playing covers. The band released their first album. The first album was called Goo Goo Dolls, but what was the name of the band? Band's original lineup. Playing in a band. But it doesn't say what the name of the band was. I'm telling you, it was called the Sex Maggots. They didn't remember how they picked the name. We had a gig, so we had come up with some kind of name to play the show. It was kind of a stupid name. but they used to be called no. Yeah, but they playing like the CBGB. They had a song called "I'm Awake Now," which was on Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. They were on Metal Blade Records. And then they, once they got mainstream success, although, it's funny, I can't seem to find, they weren't called I thought they were called the Sex Maggots. Let me look that up. Band Sex Maggots. That's probably Sex Maggots band. Here we go. Very old Goo Goo Dolls recordings back when they were called. Yeah, so they used to be called Sex Maggot. They went from Sex Maggot to Goo Goo Doll. So, like, the point that I'm trying to make here is that selling out is something where you change who you are to make money. And being a Nepo baby, you're born into that. You're not changing who you are to make money. If anything, you're embracing your history, you're embracing who you are. My last name is XYZ, and I am an XYZ. Now, there are some actors who go against the grain. Look at Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage was made fun of for being a Coppola. His fucking uncle was Francis Ford Coppola. Guy directed Godfather and Apocalypse Now. And so he changed his name. And this is why Nick Cage is such a badass to me. He changed his name to Cage after his favorite comic book character, Luke Cage, the Power Man, one of his favorite comic book characters, and then struck out, So it's like, and he, Nick Cage, I love Nick Cage, but he's not your traditional leading man. He's kind of a goofy looking guy. I'm a goofy looking guy. So it's like, it's goofy looking guy calling another guy goofy looking, so the idea that, he doesn't have that going for me. He has a very unique look, and he has a name like Nick Cage, and he's not leaning on the family name is the opposite of selling out. Right. So to sell out would be, if he started off, here's a great example of selling out. If Nick Cage started out as Nick Cage and wasn't getting anywhere and changed his name back to Coppola, that would be selling out. And that would also kind of be doing like maybe the Nepo baby thing a little bit. That would overlap. Another example is Joe Hill. Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King, his real name is Joe King. Joe King. Joe changed his name to Hill because he wanted to be a writer, and he wanted to be a writer on his own merit. And so he got his deal as Joe Hill. And there's a story about how either someone found out that he looks exactly like Stephen King. It's not hard to put two and two together. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know, but he's not, he did not try and ride for him to change his name. If he had not done well as Joe Hill and then changed his name to Joe King and said, I'm the son of Stephen King, that would be selling out and being a Nepo baby. So they're three different things, although they can overlap. I'm going to move on, basically. Alexander says, most new bands are Nepo babies or sellouts. It's not much of an issue. Bob says, if I'm honest, Spotify is the only reason I make money for my podcast. It's evil for sure, but so is using fossil fuels. Great point, Bob. Great point. So there's a lot of different ways to be evil. Using fossil fuels is a pretty evil thing, ultimately. Bottom line. Everybody's going to think I'm a fucking hippie. Oh, we had some support from Riot Stickers. Sharpie, thank you so much. Everyone that is able, follow my lead. Thank you. That is really kind of you. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the contribution. And in turn, I want to suggest that everybody, instead of following Sharpie's lead, although I do appreciate the support from Sharpie, instead take your $5 and donate it to Mike Roach's battle with Parkinson's, because Mike Roach is struggling right now. He has Parkinson's. He doesn't have good health care, man. Living with Parkinson's is friggin' expensive. And so you can support You could support Mike in his battle. That's right. Ride stickers. We are the bomb. We've been going for nearly 2 hours. I'm so surprised that we've had as many people on the stream as we have, and all the wonderful things and all the wonderful comments. Count Zacula says that vinyl forces you to get up out of your chair. It sure does. It sure friggin' does. That's right. So you get your steps in too. So that's good. McClovia says the only bootlegs I got are 12 Hits from Hell and the Misfits playing the Ramones live. Interesting. What about AI produced bootlegs? I guess every AI cover of a song is pseudo bootleg a little bit. I don't know. Jody says, got a new phone and had to make a new YouTube and all that jazz. I subscribed. Here's Skulls and Hail Frumess. Oh, it's Jody Ramone. Jody, we're doing the anti-show. I'm glad you're here. Congrats on getting a new phone. Sorry you had to make a new account. Thank you for all the skulls, cousin Jody Ramone. Oh my God, this is a name we haven't seen in a long time. Pod's Magic, you know what is here. Pod asks, didn't Glenn produce the bootlegs? No, Glenn Danzig never, ever produced any bootlegs. I have no idea what you're talking about. That is absolutely salacious and not true. There's no way that Glenn Danzig would ever do something like that. I highly, highly doubt that Glenn Danzig would ever produce bootlegs. That would never, no way, shape, or form. I don't think so. I truly don't. Stevie J, what do you think of Calabrese and who are your top Misfits style brands? What do I think of Calabrese? I like Calabrese a lot, man. I know those guys. I interviewed them a long time ago for the Misfits documentary, so they'll be in it. Davey was on Pizza Punk, an episode of Pizza Punk a while back. Those are great guys, man. And the funny thing about Calabrese is the more records they make, the better they get. I love the artistic direction they've been going in over the years. And I'm glad they're still going too, because Jimmy left and they're still doing their thing. So good on them. Who are some of my favorite top Misfit style brands? Brands? You mean bands? My favorite Misfit style band is the Misfits, bro. It's that simple. Clothius asks, which Mother of Mercy cover is your favorite? It's funny. I listened to the Calabrese one today on Spotify for the very first time. And you know what? It was great, man. Bobby did a great job with the vocals. David did a great job with the drums. It's great. I love all the little, production and instrumentation they did. I give it an A. Solid A. Joseph Ramirez says, saw the Misfits in Austin this past week, and they were noticeably in a great mood. I'm glad to hear that. I am glad to hear that. That's right. Kevin 45 is right. Spinal Tap is a mockumentary, and it's a great one at that. Spinal Tap, sure. That's a Christopher Guest movie, I think. I think so. Joseph Ramirez says he's reporting to us from the Austin concert. Glenn and Jerry basically held hands for a second. Glenn went for a handshake in between song banter, and Jerry just grabbed it and held. I couldn't believe my eyes. Is there pictures of this? I want to see pictures. This is insane. Sharpie Riot says Freddie Got Fingered is the best. It is. Freddie Got Fingered is an American cult classic masterpiece, man. So far ahead of its time. I don't know when the last time you watched Freddie Got Fingered, but it's a beautiful, brilliant film with a great soundtrack. And Julie, I wish there were more podcasts about Freddie Got Fingered. I feel like not enough people are talking about Freddie Got Fingered out there. Bob Rose says, Freddie Got Fingered? You mean the flawless movie that was streaming on Criterion Channel this year? God bless. Noah Body. Damn, I'm late. Well, you're better late than never, man. Better late than never. Sharpie Riot says, when I met Tom Green, I told him Freddy Got Fingered was my second favorite movie of all time, next to the original Halloween. I stand by that statement. Sharpie, I didn't know that you dig Freddy Got Fingered. I watched Freddy Got. Here's something funny. I told this to Bob Rose privately. I'm going to tell all of you. Rip Torn in Freddy Got Fingered is, my dad is a combination of Homer Simpson and Rip Torn in Freddy Got Fingered. Like, that is my dad. So when I watch Freddy Got Fingered, I laugh so hard because I feel like so much of my relationship with my dad is just Gort's relationship with Rip Torn. I found a soap on a rope. Oh, fuck me, Gort. Fuck me. Okay. Well, here you go. Then fuck me, Gort. Fuck. That's not my relationship. I'm just saying, it's just like the way he talks. Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? It's just great, man. It's just great. Oh man, like the father-son relationship in that movie, I just find it incredibly relatable, and I love it. I friggin' love it. Dumbo asks, do you think Kelly Carlin overreacted by suing Dudsey for the George Carlin AI? It seemed to me it was only a pet project, not meant to profit off of George's aesthetic. I don't know the whole controversy behind that. I don't know what the situation is. I think if you don't get permission from the relatives of the deceased to utilize their likeness and image for a project, commercial or otherwise, that it is inherently disrespectful. And I think that, you should, and if they didn't do that, I mean, that's going to be a big problem. It's already a problem. It's going to be an even bigger problem. I mean, AI being used to impersonate and bring dead people back to life is an incredibly messy, convoluted, ethically ambiguous sort of thing. And I don't even know what feels right yet in regards to that. But one thing that does feel right is if you don't get the consent and permission of the family, then you're in the wrong and you deserve to be sued. I think that's what I think right now. Maybe my mind will change on that, but that's how I feel. AI again, like AI is a tool that it should be like a calculator and nothing more. That's my feeling, and so, so like, here's the thing though, like seeing spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie Yesterday by Robert, what's his name? Danny Boyle, great director. I love Danny Boyle to death. He made a movie called Yesterday about the Beatles. What if the Beatles had never existed? And there's this one scene where they bring John Lennon back from the dead. It's Robert Carlyle dressed up as John Lennon. So it's not AI. And there's something so utterly, now, did they get permission from the Lennon estate to do that? I don't know. But there was something so utterly magical and almost healing seeing John Lennon as an old man. It was the same sort of feeling that I got from seeing Shannon Tate have a happy ending at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so, like, I feel like there is kind of a place. There is a place where, I don't mind Grand Moff Tarkin, which was made with the consent of his estate, I believe. I don't mind that they brought Peter Cushing back as Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. I thought it was actually quite interesting. See, like, that worked for me. I think it's very subjective. I feel like it's a case-by-case basis. I don't think I'm not sure what the right exact answer is. So I don't think that Kelly Carlin overreacted at all. She probably thought it was really ghoulish, especially it's your fucking father, man. I can't blame her. I can't blame her at all. Noah says, materialism, moneyism, idealism. What do you think solves the hard problem of consciousness? I didn't see your video on that yet. Well, So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you to just watch that video because we talked about that. We talked a little bit about it earlier, and I really went into detail, and I don't want to repeat it again here. So I'm going to suggest you watch my video about consciousness. But I will say this. The hard problem with consciousness, it's not that it is a hard problem, but I'm not really sure how you can solve the problem. If you're saying like, what is consciousness? Like, how do we find out what consciousness exactly is? I mean, I don't know if materialism or moneyism or idealism could be used to solve it. I don't know. I don't really, your statement question doesn't really make sense to me. If I'm being honest. Could you maybe like elaborate a little bit more before we continue, before I continue answering it? Sorry. I just like, I need more than what you're saying here. I don't really understand maybe. Mom Longoria is here. Good evening, Mom. How are you? Hope the kids are well. Oiled up stream next. Why am I wearing glasses inside? I'm wearing glasses inside because my future's so bright. I got to wear shades. Okay. I always wear glasses. It's so that you can't see my eyes. That's it. Mom Longoria says this open-ended audience focused show is actually rather cool. I wish I was able to join earlier. You know, I got to tell you, the amount of interaction and participation that we've gotten from a show that doesn't have a topic is blowing my mind. And I love this format. It's so freeing. It's effortless. I don't have to think of anything. That's not to say I don't like to talk about particular subjects, but I mean, this is really cool. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. It's great. So we'll definitely do it again. It went far beyond what I imagined it could have gone. I'd like to sell out. I needs the cash badly. Hey, don't we all? Don't we all? Kevin 45 says Goo Goo Dolls are from Buffalo and used to play with green jelly back then. Were they called the sex maggots when they played? That's what I'm wondering. Sharpie says Rip Torn is a gem in that movie. I quote him constantly. Gort? Oh, fuck me? Fuck me? Okay. Then do it. Fuck me. That's so fun. Everything that Rip Torn says in that movie is gold. It's friggin' gold. Oh, boy. Andrew Woodcock. I don't know if that's your real name, but if it is, what a marvelous name. Andrew friggin' Woodcock. So many different options there. You can call him Drew Woodcock, Andy Woodcock, Woody, Cocky, Woodcocky. I love it. That's great. Speaking of great, we have Shaquille Oatmeal. What a name, Shaquille Oatmeal. Do you think it's hypocritical to be mad at people eating dogs when those same people eat cows and chickens? Oh, shit. That is a very good question. So fundamentally, from a simple, oh my God. All right, hold on. Let me organize myself here before I try and answer this. Do I think it's hypocritical to be mad at people eating dogs? I'm not mad at people eating dogs. I'm not. I think it's horrid and repulsive from a Western cultural perspective, because dogs are like family to me. My dog was my family. Okay. I love dogs. I love them like people. Okay. I don't want to eat people, so it's like, let me flip the question back at you. Would you get mad at a cannibal tribe for eating people? A tribe that, an indigenous tribe of some sort that ritualistically or practically, practices cannibalism. Would you be mad or offended or upset or whatever that they're eating people? And that's how you have to look at it. In general, I've talked about a little bit about how I feel about industrialized farming. Here's the problem. I hate industrialized farming, but I'm also addicted to meat. I was raised to be a meat eater. I love meat, man. I love meat. So that soundbite is going to haunt me someday. I have a feeling. No, I'm a carnivore, man. I am. I've tried to not be a carnivore. I try to lessen my meat intake, and the meat that I eat does come from industrialized farming. So I'm a hypocrite when I say everything that I'm going to say. But in an ideal world, I would be able to take a bow and arrow and have the skill and ability to go into the woods over there and shoot some squirrels or some bunnies right in the eye and cook it clean and eat my own meat, or a deer or something. Like, I don't have any problem with hunters who do that, who have that kind of relationship with their food. I think it's actually quite admirable. And so on that level, I can't judge another culture for how they're able to get their protein, because that's what it ultimately comes down to. Do I think it's barbaric and terrible to eat dogs? I personally do, because I love dogs. In the same way that, Hindus feel about people eating cows, because Hindus, cows are sacred in the Hindu religion. And so a Hindu would judge a Hindu Indian or Hindu, just whatever, anybody who's Hindu might judge, me in the same way that I would judge somebody in, I don't know, a country like Vietnam or Cambodia where they eat dogs, especially when I feel the way that I feel about dogs. So, I don't necessarily think it's hypocritical. I think that we feel the way we feel based on our culture and based on how we're raised. I don't know if anybody in Vietnam or wherever that they do eat. I know they eat dogs in Vietnam. That's why I'm referencing Vietnam. And I'm not looking down. Again, I can't judge them for how they're getting protein. Like, that's a source of protein. That's where they get it. It's a different environment. It's a different landscape. It's harder to get nutrition, or it's more challenging in certain areas. It's more challenging in third world countries. I don't know if Vietnam is a third world country. I think maybe it is. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn on that. I want to be sensitive too. But like, ultimately, like I feel bad about cows and chickens too, in the same way that I feel about dogs. But, I also like eating cows and chickens. So I don't know. I can't be some bastion of ethical morality in these fields. I think ultimately, I'm a hypocrite. I'm not a hypocrite. It's not me being hypocritical for being repulsed that people eat dogs. I'm a hypocrite because I eat cows and chickens that are industrial farmed, and that I should really be sourcing my own meat if I plan to eat meat, or eating meat that's been cloned. I'm all about that cloned meat. That it's not available yet, but as soon as it is, I will not eat another animal that's industrial farmed. I will only eat meat that is grown in a lab. And that's its own complicated sort of situation too. But I would do that sooner. I would do that sooner than, eating a cow or a chicken that's industrial farmed. So I am a giant hypocrite. I'm waiting for an Elvis and Marilyn Monroe AI film. But like, here's the thing. Like, I mean, biopics kind of suck anyway in general, but like in the sense of like that Elvis biopic was pretty good with Austin Butler or whatever. Like, he did a good job. Like, there are some very natural ways to sort of, get these movies, get movies like this. Noah says, sorry, I guess I wanted to know what you think consciousness is and which of those ideas best align with your views on it. Okay. All right. That makes a lot more sense. What do I think consciousness is? I already sort of answered this. I think consciousness, well, I don't know what I don't know what I think consciousness is, but I think consciousness is very much connected to like the Force, like from Star Wars, like straight up. And the Force is this place of divinity. It's like a divine place where all creativity comes from. And so I think consciousness is inherently connected to some sort of source, some place, some powerful place somewhere in the ether, in space, in another dimension, where all of our creativity comes from. And that's how it works. I'm trying to find your other question. And then you were asking Materialism, moneyism, and idealism. Sorry, I'm trying to find which of these ideas best aligns with my views on consciousness. So does materialism align with consciousness? I don't know, man. I feel like, again, that's like kind of like a weird, I feel like you have to be conscious in order to experience these things. Consciousness is a state, right? It's a state of being. I also think that, consciousness is the soul. Like, so I don't know if we have a soul in our body, but like, that like in science fiction, there's like they have like beings that are organisms made out of pure energy that evolve to not need like bodies made out of meat. There's a short story by Terry Bissum that I adapted actually as a short film. It's on this channel called They're Made Out of Meat that kind of talks about that. So I yeah, I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know. Consciousness is the chemical reactions inside the brain matter. Could not disagree more. I know where you stand though. We had these conversations on the consciousness podcast that I did. So could not disagree more, but you are entitled to your opinion. Sharpie says, this isn't a question, but wanted to share. I lived in the jungle on an island in Honduras for a week over the summer. No phone, and gathered my own food. If you need a life reset, go and do it. But this isn't a question, but it is related. First of all, thank you for sharing that. This isn't a question, but it is related to what was said above about, in relation to eating animals. It's like Sharpie, what you're describing is like connecting to the land where you're living in a way that we don't normally connect, because we have all these barriers and all these middlemen or middle people that sort of, bring us the things that we want, or need without having to see how the sausage is made. That's pretty cool though. I think that's really cool. And that's awesome that it felt like a reset to you. That's great. Thank you. So Sharpie has posted the one with the consciousness. So go check it out if you want to talk more about consciousness, or if you want to hear my thoughts more on consciousness, check out this link. Is cloned meat in a lab even a thing? It totally is a thing. It totally is a thing. And right now it's incredibly expensive, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper to manufacture. And I think one day it will be the future. I think someday industrial farming will be a thing of the past. I hope that it will destroy industrial farming. Noah says, materialism would explain consciousness purely a physical phenomenon, merely a brain function. Oh, okay. Oh, I see why you're saying that. So what you mean by materialism, okay, now I'm understanding. Materialism would explain consciousness purely as a fit. So I don't think materialism is capable of that, because because we dream. What are dreams? I think that dreams can be manufactured by the brain, but I also think it's possible to step outside of the brain while you're in a dreaming state. And that's when you get to sort of go outside of your body, Thank you for breaking these down, Noah. I appreciate it. Monism explain consciousness being a fundamental block of reality, like space-time. Okay, so and that's funny you bring that up. That's kind of like the quantum mechanics, like the slit experiment to an extent. There's also something called Quibism, I think it's called, and it's quantum Bayanism. Basically, the idea is that by perceiving something, you affect its properties and what it is, right? And so in that way, consciousness could very well be the thing that creates reality. It could be the thing that's making reality. So all of our consciousnesses making reality. Sharpie says, I'll starve to death before I eat lab meat. Like, here's the thing, Sharpie. Like, again, if I had the balls and the ability and the will to go out with a rifle or a knife or a bow and arrow and I had the ability to hunt and knew where meat was, I mean, that would be fine with me. I would try to do that. But if I have to pick between industrial farming and lab meat, I will go with lab meat every single time. Every single time. Ben Gay is here. How are you, Ben? With the recent Drake versus Kendrick feud, everyone has called Drake indirectly a PDF file. That's good. That was a good way. That was a good circumvention for YouTube. Thank you. Due to his alleged behavior, do you think people throwing around the term PDF file so loosely now is good or bad? First of all, the Drake Kendrick thing feud is, I'm not really very much dialed into the rap world or the R&B world or whatever. I don't really know the particulars. I do know that he was called that and had to do with the actress from Stranger Things and some questionable behavior, not questionable, inappropriate. It was his inappropriate text communications and stuff, which is inappropriate. Ultimately, it's inappropriate. He shouldn't be doing it. I don't know it's wrong. It's inherently wrong. Is throwing it around so loosely good or bad? I think, how about this? Let me take it a little bit outside using just PDF file. Let's use the word Nazi. Let's use the word, I don't know, like there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of words like that. Let's use the word fascist. Let's use the word woke. Let's see, like all these words, they all get thrown around kind of loosely. And then the actual thing kind of loses its meaning as a result. I'm not going to speak personally to Drake's situation in the PDF file situation because I don't know. Again, I don't entirely know the particulars. I'm not going to sit here and go down the rabbit hole of what they are. I do know that whatever he was doing was inappropriate and wrong. And, whether he's prosecuted in the court of public opinion or legally, I don't even know if there's anything legally that could be done. I mean, listen, it sounds like he made his bed and he's got to sleep in it. So, but that any sort of, actions like that is inherently wrong and inappropriate and shouldn't be done or conducted. Is it okay to I think it can be a problem when you take really heavy words and throw them around lightly. Does that particularly apply to the Drake situation? I don't know. I truly don't know. And like I said, I don't know exactly the details. I'm not going to weigh in on it now. I'm really not. I just don't want to go there. But I think that I do believe that that words sometimes, again, we're going outside just PDF file. We're talking about lots of words that are akin to that word and get thrown around effortlessly. I think it can be problematic to throw around words effortlessly, and that there needs to be a little bit more. We need to treat these words with a little bit more gravitas as they are defined, right? Because if you call every single person a Nazi when they're not a Nazi, then it sort of cheapens what a Nazi truly is. So is Drake a PDF file or just a creep? Where does the line cross? I guess ultimately because if that actress, if she's underage, then he's a creep. I mean, that would qualify. I don't know. I don't know. It's all bad. It's all bad. I don't know what else to say. I'm just going to keep going here. Hold on one second. Materialism, monism, starve to death. Kevin Ebanks says he's better than Levy. I don't even know who Kevin Ebanks is, so that just goes to show you. Noah says, do you know why Sam Hain never gets re-released or put on streaming? Does Glenn just not give a fart? I don't know, man. I don't know. Who knows, man? Who knows why that is? I hope that that there's a demand for Sam Hain vinyl. Hopefully it comes out. Hopefully someday. Sharpie says, you aren't wrong about factory farming, but lab meat isn't the answer. We need regenerative farming. I don't know what regenerative farming is, but as long as it's not factory farming is just fucking evil, terrible. Like, I hate it. And I also hate using the word evil to describe everything too. I mean, fossil fuels are no, the capitalism behind fossil fuels is evil. Fossil fuels are ultimately a result of, late stage, the evil qualities of fossil fuels are ultimately a result of late stage capitalism, unchecked and unfettered, evil oil corporations. At the end of the day, fossil fuels are just a tool, an indifferent tool that is used in a way that destroys the environment. So, Count Zacula says, it's the same way with positive words like epic or iconic. Those words kind of hold no weight anymore for me. Okay. So first of all, Zach, thank you for saying that. Like, I really felt like I was like kind of drowning in my answer. And I'm not excusing Drake's behavior, and I condemn and do not condone Drake's behavior in any way, shape, or form. I like that you're using this as an analogy for that. It's like when you don't use a word in its right context, whether it's PDF file or whatever, or Nazi or epic or iconic or woke or this or that, it loses its power. It loses its ability to have effectiveness in what it's supposed to mean. And that, to me, is its own problematic thing, Ben Gay says the age gap relationship discourse you see online, for example, does go to a ridiculous standard, in my opinion. That's why I brought up the Drake stuff. Look, here's the bottom line. I really don't want to weigh on this endlessly because I'm afraid I'm going to say something really stupid on the internet. This is the problem with this format, is that like you get questions and you just I didn't pre-read any of these questions. I'm just taking everything as is. Here's the bottom line. Like, Drake, what Drake did was inappropriate and most likely illegal. And whether he's prosecuted for in a court of public opinion or by law, what he did was wrong. He was wrong. He is wrong. He acted inappropriately. He acted most likely illegally in some way, shape, or form. Who knows? I don't think it's a ridiculous standard. I think that but I do think it's subjective. Like, for instance, here's an example of where it could be subjectively outrageous. And then I'm going to move on from it. I do believe there are states where I don't know if maybe this isn't true. There are states where, the age of consent is 16 for males and 18 for females, right? So if two 16-year-old kids are dating, what they're doing is technically wrong under the state of the law, right? Because the age is different for girls and boys. And I don't know like I should just Google. No, I'm not going to Google it. Why am I still talking about this? I got to stop talking about this. Point being, because I'm just afraid I'm going to like say something wrong. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, ultimately, like this is where things get kind of weird. Because, you know, two 16-year-old kids, if a guy is 16 and a girl is 16, what's the problem with that? Right? What's the problem with that? Even though the law says, oh, it's 16 for a guy and it's 18 for a girl. That's weird to me. That's weird to me. But any discourse around the inappropriate nature of Drake, I think, is quite warranted. And, you know, I don't know if he'll get his comeuppance, but maybe he should. Jody says, hard to believe the OG Misfits have now been together longer than their initial run. That is a strange one. That is a strange one. And you know what? That is the last comment. That is the last comment. We've reached the end of the comments. We still have 14 people watching and participating, 2.5 hours in. I'm amazed. It's late. I want to continue watching. Oh, God damn it. Noah's asking a question. I'm going to answer this one and then we're done. Am I a Spider-Man fan? I see a figure on my mic. I have the same magnetic one on my fridge. Yes, I love Spider-Man. Who doesn't love Spider-Man? I don't know where I got this figure, but it is magnetic. And I was like, you know, I just like having it. I have another one and he's missing his head. I don't remember where. I've had it for years. I've had it for God. I must have had it for 20 something years. And I don't collect figures, but I have a few lying around. You know, I have a few lying around and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, of course I love Spider-Man. I could talk endlessly about Spider-Man, but I'm not going to now. Save it for the next anti-show. Thank you for the skulls, Count Zacula. Kevin says, hit me up soon. Yeah, Kevin, I'm so sorry. I will. I've been meaning to, I just, Kevin, I don't know if you saw it earlier. I just shot the beginning of a feature-length film. I've just been so incredibly busy. That's why I've been doing reruns. But I'm done now, and I very much want to be on Von Pod. I gotta talk to you about some stuff. So yes, I will hit you up. Sharpie, thank you for your contribution and thanks for participating and thanks for sharing that really cool stuff about your experiences over the summer. Jody, again, congratulations on your new phone. Peace and hair grease to you as well, cousin Jody Ramone. It seems like so the anti-show is this anti-show is I've been talking nonstop for 2.5 hours. My throat is sore. The anti-show is an astounding success, and we will definitely have to do another one in the future. So I'm going to leave you all now. Peace, hair grease, peace and hair grease, and Drake should be in jail for his behavior. Let's just leave it at that, okay? Any kind of behavior like that is inappropriate, illegal, and should not be conducted in any way, shape, or form. That's my belief. And that's the way, that's what ultimately you can't have these discussions on the internet because they're so incredibly nuanced and sensitive and weird, and you just can't talk about that stuff on the internet. So I don't know what else to say about it. I'm still clearly talking about it because I'm trying to think back of how I spoke about it. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck am I talking about right now? Jesus Christ. This is why I need a producer. I need a producer to screen things, make sure, whatever. I don't know. Why am I still going? Why am I still talking? I'm going. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Peace and hair grease. We'll see you next time.